Good evening, friends. As we were doing methods of psychology, under that we had seen types of research. Methods of psychology is our chapter number 2, under which we have already seen types of research. Today we will see methods of research. Under the types of research, we saw that there are various types like descriptive, evaluative, diagnostic, and prognostic. These 4 types of research are mentioned specifically in the syllabus. UPSC has kept its questions closely to the syllabus. There are rare years when few questions are asked which are out of the syllabus, which are not from the syllabus. Then there are questions which earlier in the old pattern, when 60 markers used to be there used to be questions when they had asked questions on descriptive research itself, where you are supposed to give the definition, examples, limitations, disadvantages, advantages, each and everything about the descriptive research. But now, since the pattern has changed, and with the 10 markers, 15 markers and 20 markers, we have seen that most of the questions are like comparable cross chapter questions. They focus more on the definition, conceptual clarity and application. So, what we have covered not only suffices but is more than enough. If you have an understanding of what is descriptive type of research, what research we are talking about when we say descriptive research, well, there won't be any manipulation of IV, there won't be any control of EV, but the researcher is primarily focused about describing the issue, going into what, when, where of the issue. In the evaluative type of research, the impact of a intervention, that is manipulation of IV, will take place. We will see the effect of any policy which was brought or any intervention which was done and see the effect of it. Then there is diagnostic type of research, where why certain problems occurred, what caused certain problem to occur is analyzed. In prognostic type of research, whether a problem will occur or not, what is the propensity of certain problem occurring, certain disorder occurring, that is done. Prognostic research leads to diagnostic research and diagnostic research leads to prognostic research. If you keep few points which have been discussed in the class in your mind and keep on repeating and revising that suffices, and in fact your probability of passing the examination increases by many fold. But if you go deep into that just to understand a few things which you can understand otherwise as well, then you are not only wasting your time, but then your resources are compromised and you are not able to focus on GS. So all in all, you are a loser. So better idea is to focus on the syllabus, the previous year question papers, see the pattern, the way questions are being asked, then focus more on applying the concepts. After understanding the concept for sure, but understanding can take place through examples. With this in mind, we will move to another topic, which is called your methods of research. In the research, we have seen different types of research are done and why research is important. especially the evaluative type of research, which will be your experimental research where manipulation of IV will take place, because research gives a validity of scientific analysis and scientific discipline to the psychology, as simple as that. What are the methods to conduct the research? That we will see. How the research is conducted, the methods of it. First and foremost, is your survey. Survey is a method of doing a research. Then observation, then there is case study, then there are experiments. Depending upon the problem, depending upon the resources available, see what is happening, what happens, how the research takes place, or any activity for that matter. Suppose I am giving you an example, a crude example from a different analogy, different parallel. Suppose in a place called Balaghat, there is a huge resource of coal, which if brought out will give us huge amount of money. That money amounts to 100 CR. But while bringing this coal, the amount which will be spent here, the expenditure is 150 CR. Will you spend 150 CR to get 100 CR? No. That is why this coal will never be dug out. Likewise, for a research to be done, we have to see first whether it is viable economically, viable or not. When we say economically viable, it means the resources which will employ the manpower, the infrastructure, the equipments which will be used, which we will employ for the research, whether or not it will give the desired result. If it gives the desired result, then only we will employ these resources, otherwise we will not keep it. Then we will see whether it is ethically viable or not. Not every research is ethically viable. That is, we cannot observe or we cannot survey. Suppose we send our surveyors to do a survey about how much time a person spends on social media, on particular sites which reveal their personal identity, which reveals their personal choices. They have a right to privacy. So if we ask these questions, we are invading into their privacy. That is unethical. Suppose we go for observation method. We have seen that the methods are, firstly, what is survey? Survey is nothing where what happens in survey? So many surveyors, they are given a set of questions. They ask this set of questions to a group of people, collect their information, collect the data, which can be in form of quantitative data. That is, they may ask, how many hours do you sleep? The qualitative question in this only, whether you believe that your quality of life is good, or you believe that you are getting enough sleep. That's a qualitative question. So in the survey this happens. In observation what happens? You put your cameras or you put your people who can be just observers. They will see what is happening. Suppose an earthquake took place. The researcher has his people. They observe what is the behavior of the people after the earthquake settled down. What is the behavior of the people? How do they behave? What was the intensity of stress? Whether they are suffering from any disorder or not. Observation. Then there will be another method in which they will become participant of this. First part which we have discussed is naturalistic observation. Something which is happening in a natural setting. Your observer is just watching it. Participant is where the observer is participating in the event. That is, observer is also part of the village where earthquake came. He is participating in the observation. He is participating in the experimental setup. He is participating in the activity which is taking place. That is your observation. Then there can be case study. Case study was the most famous method used by Sigmund Freud to study the behavior of his patients. He used to study them in detail. What is their daily routine? What are all they thinking? What is their dream? They used to analyze the dream. What is their speech format? Freudian slip. When a person or a group of people or a phenomena is studied in detail, focusing only on that particular event of that particular person, then it is called case study. When the same things are studied in a lab experiment, either in a lab setting or a naturalistic setting, where one variable is manipulated, that is, how does the inclusion of special education work for disadvantaged learners? Different degrees of special education. For higher degree of special education, we see that a better performance by disadvantaged children is there. For a lower degree of special education, disadvantaged children, one of the section who are given lower degree of special education, they don't display a better behavior. Different degrees of independent variable, that is called treatment. And when we see that there is a cause and effect relationship between the independent variable and the dependent variable, that is called an experiment. These are the four primary methods which are used in the research. We have to study them in precise detail as has been our method, because see, the whole syllabus needs to be covered. One, you need to focus on concepts and you need to retain this information so that you can go and write this in the exam. Why many people fail despite the fact that they prepare well? Because of the volume which is provided by the many of the teachers. As earlier also I talked about, the approach should be to do a smart study. The approach should be to do the study which is relevant for the examination, because here you are preparing for a competitive examination. Even if you are preparing for a preparation of becoming an psychologist, even there, even if you are doing PhD, the idea is you should have greater command over the concept rather than having unnecessary details in your bag. So, we will analyze each and every method of research gradually. First comes your survey. As I have already told you, what is survey? Survey is a method of research in which the information is collected from a group of people, from a group of participants, from a group of participants by asking questions to them. They are asked questions. For example, they will be asked questions from people from various houses, or suppose we are studying, as a researcher we are studying the parenting styles used by various families. So each family, from each family, either both the parents or only mother will be asked what type of parenting you are using, whether it is democratic parenting or authoritarian, Hitler approach, democratic, Gandhiji approach, asking everything in detail, being with the person, being with the child, supporting the child, authoritarian approach, or rejecting approach, having no idea what is happening. What kind of parenting is done? From each family, either both the parents or the mother will be asked this question. The response to this question is collected, analyzed statistically. There comes the role of statistics. Why do we study statistics? When the data is collected, you collect all the information. What will you do with that? You will have to analyze the data statistically. For that we will use various methods, as we will see in the next chapter. Then we will come to a conclusion. After the analysis of the data, the report is prepared and written. That is the finalization of research. This is the method of survey. Collection of data from a group of participants. Suppose we are studying the parenting behavior of a district. Now we are surveying the whole district, but will all of them participate? The answer is no. So that is the demerit of this method. The data collection can be quantitative. They may be asked how many hours you are sleeping, or they may be asked, are you satisfied with your number of hours you sleep? That is qualitative data. When we are asking question about their opinion, beliefs, that is qualitative. Quantitative is when you are asking a particular question, how many hours are you sleeping? That kind of question, that is quantitative. Then there are certain characteristics which define the method of survey. Firstly, characteristics of survey as a method of research. First characteristic is the data is collected but in a systematic method. What is the meaning of systematic method here? What is systematic? The study is done in an organized manner, where not only the participants are asked the questions which are defined properly, which will lead to a particular conclusion, but the sample and the population. Firstly, what is the population? Suppose we want to study the quality of sleep in this age group, 18 to 25 years age group. This is our sample. This is our population. 18 to 25 years age group. what is the sleep pattern or quality of sleep. This is our population. A part of it will be studied, and that part is a sample. What is the sample? Sample is what is the quality of sleep in a particular district. Suppose in Azamgarh, we want to understand the quality of sleep. In Azamgarh, quality of sleep in Azamgarh, that is our sample. The whole population is all the youth in this age group of 18 to 25, and the sample is youth of 18 to 25 in Azamgarh. So this gives a method, a systematic method. This is what is being called. The collection of data takes place in a systematic manner. Systematic methods of data collection is used. Secondly, data collection can be online, telephonic, or field based. The data, the questions, they can be collected by calling the people. How many hours do you sleep? First they will be told that I am speaking from this department of survey. Can you give me the answer? Most people will say I don't want to tell you how many hours I sleep, where do I sleep, who I sleep with. That is my duty. That is my headache. Why are you worried? That is a limitation. You will not get the response of each and every one. So it can be online. The survey can be sent to you in form of an email to your email ID or to your WhatsApp by taking consent, of course. Then it may be a field based survey where people may be sent to the field, to your home, and to collect the questions. Then the data collected can be data or information. Qualitative or quantitative. Either qualitative or quantitative. That is, again the same questions. The question may be how many hours are you sleeping, and are you satisfied with your sleeping pattern? Qualitative. When we are collecting qualitative data, it means we are collecting what? Qualitative means the opinion, belief, of the participants. What is their opinion? What is their belief system? That is asked in qualitative questions. And one of the methods of qualitative study or one of the qualitative research method is your focus group discussion, where in a small circle, participants are asked about their opinions and beliefs. They are asked about what is their thinking about the cleanliness in the society. Then firstly, the data collection is systematic. Secondly, it can be collected on online or offline. Thirdly, qualitative or quantitative. Then this is not third, this is fourth. Fourth is the survey method is flexible, replicable and valid. What does it mean? The survey is not rigid. Suppose I am supposed to take the information from each and every house. Some of the houses are locked. In some of the houses, people simply deny to come out. In some of the houses, they say, I am not going to give you any opinion. Even then, the survey is valid. Survey is not rigid. Then, the survey we are doing in a district in Azamgarh can be replicated. The same survey can be done in another district, Ghaziabad also. It's a replicable method. Same survey done in one area can be paralleled into another area. And it's a valid method. Why it is a valid method? See, its replicability gives us what? Reliability. That is, we can rely on, we can believe that this survey is something which we can rely upon. The same results, almost similar results, depending upon the kind of demography in Ghaziabad and your Azamgarh districts are found. That is, it is replicable. Then it is valid. What does it mean? It is valid. It means that suppose you are asking the quality of sleep question. Are you satisfied with the quality of sleep? The questions will be framed in such a manner that it gives you the result which you are looking for. Why is when a test is called valid? A test like Stanford Binet, SBIT, Simon Binet or Stanford Binet intelligence test it is called valid because it is measuring what it is measured, what it is supposed to measure. It is not measuring your creativity, it is measuring the intelligence. Likewise, if we are supposed to measure the quality of sleep, the questions will be framed in such a manner that they will be giving us the result for quality of sleep only. So they are reliable, valid and flexible. Flexible, reliable and valid. That is why for most of the social science study, survey is used. You can see when the task is mammoth, when we have to study the mood of the nation as it is done before the polls are supposed to happen in 2024, and you will see that the activity of the social media will increase like anything. You will see that suddenly so many government schemes will be activated. Suddenly everybody from the government will become so humble. If you go to them with a small problem, they will solve your problem. Because the polls are coming, elections are coming. Earlier there was so much of inflation, petrol was so costly, your daily goods were so costly, but now suddenly you will find that prices have become cheaper. Tomato has become 20 rupees per kg. Earlier it was 200 rupees. So these are the magic of Indian elections. Mood of the nation. You see, they do the survey. And you must know as an informed citizen, not as a part of psychology but otherwise, that if you go by this CSDS, Lokniti, post-poll survey, One of the known person who is there, a very authentic, honest person, is in charge of this. One of my known person, CSDS Lokniti post poll survey. The elections have happened. After that, they take the behavior, record the behavior of the pollsters, voters. Then they finally give a picture that this should be the reality, and they are very close to the reality most of the time. Survey. Then when the survey is being done, when the survey is in operation, we can do the survey. Suppose we are doing the survey for 18 to 25, and here doing the survey for 30 to 40 years age group. We can do the survey for both of these and see what is the difference between their quality of sleep or the number of hours they are sleeping. This is your cross sectional method. Cross sectional study can be done. Apart from one section of people, we are studying another section as well. Both of them have different age groups at one point of time only, doing the survey for 18 to 25 age group and doing the survey for 26 and above, suppose. Then we will compare. There is another method of doing this survey. There we study this age group people, and when they grow up, when they become 40, we study the same people. That is called the longitudinal. Although this much of gap is not kept, I have just given you an example. Longitudinal study. What is longitudinal? Where it is when the same set of people, same set of participants are studied over a period of time, it is called longitudinal. Or different sets of people are studied at the same point of time, it is cross sectional. Different cross sections of society, they are studied. That can be done at the same point of time, taking different cross sections, doing their surveys, or same cross section, same set of people, then retained over a period of time and their study done. Longitudinal and cross sectional. Both these types of surveys can be done. Then the survey, although chosen by most of the social scientists, suffers from a large and varied limitations. There are so many limitations to it. What are the limitations? Limitation to survey. First limitation. Suppose we are researching about a complex behavior. A complex behavior like population. Suppose we are studying why population is increasing with this rapid rate. Despite the fact that there is knowledge in the people that a small family is a happy family. How to keep a small family, they know. There is technology. The attitude of people, if you ask them questions, that is also pro small family norms they want to follow. But if they practice, in practice, they are not following the same. That is called your gap. Knowledge, attitude, practice, gap. Gap, K-A-P, gap. Because population behavior, how the population is rising, why it is rising, it's a complex phenomena. It's a complex behavior. We cannot study it just by doing simple survey. So survey has a limitation that complex phenomena complex behavior cannot be studied through survey. This becomes very difficult. It is not easy to study there because it may be connected to various things. It may be connected to their religious beliefs. It may be connected to their social norms. So most of the houses have more children because they have the son preference. They prefer having a son. And that is why they are having more and more number of children. In case they are getting, every time they are getting daughters, girls, so they will be looking for a son, and because of that there will be so many children. Complex behavior cannot be studied just by doing survey. Second limitation, we have defined that largely speaking the questions are framed in such a manner that they reveal the behavior which we are trying to study. But again there are certain limitations. Suppose you want to study somebody's attitude. You want to study the attitude of people staying in mainland India regarding the northeastern people. Northeast people. Their attitude is to be studied. Now you may ask certain questions. How do you like them? Do you like them or not? They are all good people. Strongly agree, neutral, don't agree, strongly disagree. These questions may be there. But then they may not be revealing the real attitude of people towards northeast residents. So there is a case of lack of validity, especially when the questions are not defined and framed in the right manner. When the questions are not defined and framed objectively, this is going to be the case. Then another limitation is, as we have already talked about, we selected a population from there we selected a sample. While selecting the sample itself, there may be sampling bias. Suppose the researcher belongs to Azamgarh district and wants to study the behavior of the Azamgarh district, then it's a sampling bias. Then if you are asking a question, people may not be revealing their real attitudes or they may not be answering itself, then that will be called your response bias. What is response bias? Bias towards response. That is, they are not responding. They are not giving the right response which they should have. You are asking them about their quality of sleep. They are not giving you the full picture. Whether they are satisfied or not, they are not revealing. Or to appear good in the eyes of the researcher, they may display this, which is called your social desirability. They may say that, yeah, I sleep 4.5 hours, that's it. I don't need to sleep 8 hours. I'm so efficient person. Social desirability. They want to be seen as a good, efficient people in the eyes of the researcher. Social desirability. Everybody wants to show their image as somebody who is very efficient, effective, honest, integral. So these biases may affect the research, sampling bias, response bias, social desirability. Now, another limitation. We selected the sample, we expected everyone to give the response, but only a few gave the response. Not all in the sample responded. That may be the case as well. Possible? Yes, quite possible. So, because of these limitations, survey alone is not used in researches. Mind it that whenever a research is done, the methods of research when we are studying, survey, observation, case study, and even the experiment, many a time all of them are used, or if not all, quite a few of them are definitely used. Single method does not give you an objective result. And how to conduct a successful survey? What are the ways to conduct a successful survey? First and foremost, define what? First step, define your population and sample. Define your population, define your sample. So these are the population. I want to study everyone who is in the age group of 18 to 25. I want to study the 18 to 25 age group, this district, that will be sample. Or I want to study only the behavior of female participants who are in the age group of 18 to 25. Finish. Population defined, sample defined. Secondly, define your method. Method of survey. How will you be doing the survey? Whether the survey will be online, offline, telephonic, or field survey. That is online survey, offline survey itself is field survey, online survey, field survey, telephonic survey. Which method you will choose, and the method you will choose to do the survey will depend upon your one thing only: budget. How much budget you have. Viability, as I said, viability defines everything. If you have the right kind of budget, you can use various methods as well. You have defined your method of collecting data. Then third step, define precise questions. Which questions are you going to ask? Precise questions. Straight away, straightforward. Are you satisfied with your quality of sleep? Are you sleeping appropriately for 7 to 8 hours? Then you have defined your sample, defined your population and sample, defined your method of collecting data, defined your questions. Then you collect the responses efficiently without any biases. Collect the responses, ask the question, note it down, note down the responses efficiently. After you have collected the responses, you will analyze the result. The responses will be analyzed, and here comes the role of statistics, which makes everyone fearful. Why everyone is fearful? Because statistics is not maths, which is meant out to be a mathematics discipline. Statistics of psychology, statistics of sociology, statistics of any other social science discipline is not mathematics. It is a basic foundation. As I was talking to one of the greatest economist of Government of India, who is also going to be our faculty for economics, she was resonating with the same view that, sir, most of the people who are teaching economics teach economics as if it is mathematics. But the reality is that economics is not mathematics. Economics, despite the fact that there are certain formula, there are definitely numbers, but economics is more about your understanding. In the syllabus of UPSC, they are not asking you what is the real GDP and nominal GDP. They are asking you socio-economic policies, their intervention effects and all. Likewise, when we say the data has been collected, responses have been collected, it will be analyzed statistically. It does not mean that mathematics will be done. Statistical analysis will be done. You have done the statistical analysis, then you finalize and write the report. Now you see, the steps to conduct a successful survey are the same steps which will be used for all other methods. Survey, then there is observation, then there is case study or experiment. The steps to conduct a successful research through any of the methods will be same. Once you have understood, define the problem, define the method of collecting data, define your population and sample, finally collect data, analyze statistically, write the report. Finished. This will be repeated in all other cases. It will make your life simple, make the life of the examiner also simple, give you marks. You pass the exam, go to Mussoorie, do your training, become a civil servant. Rather than that, the approach of going into unnecessary details eats up your time. Now, we have finished our method of survey. Another method of research is your observation. Observation is nothing but an English word. Through the way of observation, nothing will be done in a psychological research, but again the data will be collected. What is the data here? It may be quantitative or qualitative. We may see that after the earthquake took place in a district or a communal violence took place in a district, how many people are suffering from stress? That is quantitative. What is the level of stress? What behaviors they are showing? They are unable to cope up with the stress, that is giving them post-traumatic stress disorder, in which they are unable to sleep well, the nightmares are there, the night terror is there, they get reminded of the earthquake again and again, they are unable to cope up and they are unable to carry their daily lives well, they have lost the appetite, their hearing capability has also gone down, they are suffering from insomnia. These are qualitative data. By what is happening here in observation? Very interesting. Collection of and quantitative collection of qualitative and quantitative data by way of watching and recording. What is happening in observation? You want to see you must have seen, if you have visited any of the mental hospitals in India, which is not a bad thing to do, you will go there. In most of the government hospitals, they don't admit the clients or the patients who are suffering from disorder. Then the people who are accompanying the client or the patient, they will show a video that see their behavior when they are not in the hospital. When they are in the hospital, suddenly they start behaving well. But when they reach home, and it is the general case, I must tell you, when they go home, they start behaving erratically, but in the hospital they start behaving really well. So the nurses who are there, the junior doctors, they say this person is not suffering from any disorder, please take them home, just give them sleeping pills. When their muscles and nerves gets relaxed, they will be okay. But when they come back home, they start throwing shoes at you, they start running outside the home naked. These behavior are shown by people who are suffering from disorders. Now what is happening here? The caregivers, what they do in their mobile, while watching this is happening, they record it. They record it, make a video in their mobile, and then they show it to the junior doctors or nurses. They watch it and then they realize the severity of the problem. That's a harsh reality of India. That's first and foremost that there is stigma attached to the disorders, mental health. Then if somebody is suffering, the government departments themselves, they don't admit the people. Not everyone is having the deep pockets that they will go to private hospitals. And I must tell you one more thing which you can note down and you can write in the examination. The practice in India is that most of the time a disorder is treated through by the use of medicines, psychiatric medicines, not through the counseling or the intervention of the psychologist. That is why counseling as a phenomena in India has never had a foothold. You see, various aspirants who prepare for civil services, they don't take care of their health, the physical health and the mental health as well. They are under huge pressure because it's a productive age. They don't have a plan B. They are not groomed in such a fashion that they can cope up with the reality, harsh reality that it's a dicey examination. Anybody may pass and anyone may be out of the race because of the uncertainty involved. They are unable to cope with the reality, and because of that they are suffering from one or the other type of disorder. But nobody takes care of this. The institutes, they are busy making money. The family members, they stay away from the person who is preparing for the exam. There is no help from the peer group as well, because people are unable to understand the sorrow behind the plain face of the aspirants who become mature enough not to display these things. So what happens? Finally, they succumb to the pressure. Many of them lose any charm of life itself. They are distressed, do many untoward things, become alcoholic, start taking drug, because this stigma around the mental health, that is the biggest issue. And remember then that the fight in most of these cases you will be fighting alone. That's a harsh reality. So to bridge these things, we will be collaborating with certain platforms where the aspirants who are preparing, not only who join us but others also, can take help of these counselors, are involved in some extracurricular activities also that keeps them healthy, their physical and mental health both. So we were talking about the observation thing. Observation, how the data is collected, watching and recording the data. This is called observation. And observation also, like survey, observation is also one of the most popular methods. And as I told you earlier, neither survey nor observation is used alone. In most of the cases, more than 2 types of methods are used to conduct an objective, a universal research. Both survey and observation can be used. Either survey or observation along with the case study can be used. Either survey, observation or case study along with the experiments in the lab setting or naturalistic setting can be used. It is not a single method of conducting any of the research. Most of the cases, all these methods are used, because you know what is the trend now? The trend now is eclectic method. Eclectic method. Okay, the 2 limitations you are asking, the limitations of survey. The limitation, first and foremost, as we talked about in the survey, is in the survey method, because the second method is observation. It may or may not be a valid method. Limitation number 2, it may or may not be a valid method. That is, you are asking about the quality of sleep. We are talking about the survey method. A question asked is, what was the limitation number 2 in the survey method? It was validity. You may be asking about the attitude of a person towards northeastern residents, but that may not reflect the real attitude. The survey is being done regarding the attitude of residents in mainland India towards northeastern residents, but the answers may not reflect it. That is the limitation. Validity, it suffers. That was the limitation in survey method. Then we were doing observation. In observation we have seen, observation is nothing but collecting data, that is quantitative or qualitative, through the method of watching and recording. There are certain characteristics of observation that we will see. What are the characteristics of it? Observation as a method. In the observation, as I gave you the example of a person who is suffering from mental disorder, you are recording his or her behavior. You have put the camera in front of the room where she stays. The camera is recording all the activities she is doing, which is not normal. Now here what is happening? You are not interfering in the behavior of the person. Without interfering, collection of data can take place. Without interfering, you are not interfering in the. Suppose we are studying the behavior of an indigenous tribe. What they do in the last rites of people. Last rites. When somebody dies in a particular tribe, how do they conduct the last rites? What are their beliefs? That can be watched and recorded, but we are not interfering in their activities. Collection of data taking place without any interference. Then in the observation itself, another characteristics, there may be a case where suppose tribes in Samoa Island what is their behavior regarding the children achieving adolescence. Or puberty. In some of the cultures, when children become grown up enough, when they achieve puberty in that age, since it is believed that it's a very sensitive age, so many rapid changes physically, socially, emotionally, psychologically are taking place. Hormonal changes, of course. These ceremonies are celebrated in different ways, different manners. In some of the tribes, it is seen as a natural phenomena, but it is celebrated. In some of the cultures, it is made such a distressing moment in the life of a child that they become further afraid. In that, what is happening? You can observe this behavior in a natural setting. That is, the observation is taking place in a naturalistic way. Naturalistic observation. Or you may, that is, the researcher may become a participant in the event. The observation may be naturalistic observation or observation as a participant. How you will become a participant? You start staying. One of the greatest authors of our time, Jhumpa Lahiri, what she used to do, if she had to write a book about a particular tribe, she used to go and stay with them, understand their culture, the daily chores, the daily activities, their attitudes, beliefs, everything was recorded. Because she became a participant there. She starts staying with the people there. It happens, many of the foreigners who visit India, especially if you have been to university like BHU in Varanasi, you will see there are many foreigners who come to India, they stay in India, they study in India to understand the culture of India. They are participant observer, and if they stay just as a researcher and they observe everything happening, they are not participating in the event, that is naturalistic observation. So the observation may take place either by being part of the crowd which you are studying, or staying away from the crowd and observing it. The observation done, third characteristic, the observation done may be of two types. One is your exploratory. Another one is your confirmatory or explanatory. In the exploratory observation, what is happening? You don't come up with a hypothesis, you don't have any hypothesis in your mind, you are coming up with an open mind. You don't know, like you suppose somebody coming from Australia comes up with an open mind, stays in Banaras Hindu University, BHU, studies the behavior of students, studies the behavior of teachers, studies the behavior of tourists, with an open mind, explores each and every factor. There is another person coming from Santiago, Latin America. She comes up with a mind that India is reeling under poverty. Most of the students studying in BHU are polarized, communal in their nature. She wants to either accept the hypothesis or reject it. That will be your confirmatory, to confirm something. So observation may be exploratory or confirmatory, depending upon the nature of the study. Another characteristics of observation is as we have already seen, a single method is never used. Likewise, especially in the case of observation, it is never used alone. Observation is used used along with other methods of data collection like survey, case study, etc. Suppose a foreigner from Australia comes to study here. What she will do? First of all, she will do the observation about the behavior of students in BHU. Then she will catch either one student or a group of students belonging to a particular state, say UP. Then she will intensively study each and every participant, each and every student who is belonging to UP in the format of case study in a detailed way. These two will be combined. Observation is rarely used alone. Then, like survey, observation also has certain limitations of observation. What is the limitation of observation? Observation as a method involves so many participants, lots of infrastructure, and a lot of money is used. So it is resource intensive. Whenever observation is used, there will be cameras, there will be people to observe, to record each and every activity, they will have to be alert. So lots of resources are used. It is not economic to conduct observation. The biggest problem with observation is both its reliability and validity is questionable. Both reliability and validity what does it mean? You are observing the behavior of a set of people, say in BHU, belonging to state of UP. Now, you study the behavior of students from UP in another university. There will be different observations. There is no homogeneity. There is no replicability. The answers are different there. Then, again, there is no objective way to say what we are going to study. Suppose we want to study the communalism or the aspects of communalism in the students there. Just by observing their behavior, day-to-day behavior, we cannot say whether they are communal or not. It is quite possible. For example, if you look at the example of Gujarat, the people there were very peaceful till Godhra happened. So it is not necessary that they will display the behavior of communalism every now and then. But when the opportunity is there, when there is a crowd effect, mob effect, as I have already told you, in the crowd, what happens? There is a mob. The norms of the mob is different. Mob will behave in a manner which is different from each and every one of the participant. All of them feel that I am not responsible for what is happening. Nobody will catch me. There is no responsibility, no accountability for the behavior done. So the mob in most of the cases behaves in an unruly manner. So the validity of the behavior is definitely questionable through the method of observation. Another limitation, as we have already talked about, is in case of survey, So in the case of observation, biases. Which are the biases? One is your sampling bias. While choosing the sample itself, the researcher is biased. Then there are response biases. We have already studied these biases. And social desirability. Sampling bias. Why choosing BHU only? Why did you choose that sample? Response bias. Everybody in the BHU sample group, they are not giving you the right response. They are holding the response. They are giving wrong response. Response bias. Social desirability, just to appear good in the eyes of the researcher, they will say we are very friendly people, we respect each and every religion, although they abuse the another religion every now and then. And there is a trend in UP, especially in Varanasi, if they find somebody from foreign, they will be behind the person, because we are so much sensitive towards the color of the skin. A fair skinned person can get us do many things which we don't want to do, just because we are so much attracted, so much affiliated towards the fair skin. Then another limitation is in the observation especially is the ethical limitation. Ethical limitation. You cannot observe each and every behavior. It is not ethical. Suppose we want to study how people conduct themselves privately on their social media platforms. Is it ethical to observe their behavior? Will it not be invasion of their privacy? Or we want to understand, study, what do they think about their future partners? There may be certain things which are their own fantasies, which they are very much valid to think about. Should we observe that also? The answer is no. So there are ethical limitations. Not every behavior can be observed through the method of observation. We cannot collect each and every data which is socially, ethically, morally not valid. After that comes how to conduct a successful observation study. How to conduct a successful observation study. As we have dealt with in survey, in case of survey, the steps were so will be in the observation. What is the step? First step, define the population. And sample. Whom we are going to study should be defined or not? Yes. Secondly, define the method of data collection. That is, whether you will be doing naturalistic observation or participant observation, you will be using your cameras or you will be just watching it and noting it down. Everything should be defined. How will you observe? There are certain methods and protocols. Yeah, results are definitely affected by the prejudices and feelings of the observer. That's what we call demand characteristics. And experimental bias, demand characteristics or social desirability of the participants, and experimental bias, the bias which experimenter has. They are all feelings of the researcher. So the methods and protocols of collecting data. Not only do you need to define the population, not only do you need to define the ways in which you will collect the data, whether it would be naturalistic observation or participant observation, you also need to define certain protocols through which the observation will be done. How far you have to stay from the crowd so that you can observe them. What will happen in case they see that you are observing their behavior? Everything is defined. Protocols are defined. Whether you have to give them any indication that you are observing their behavior or not, everything is defined beforehand. Then one of the biggest thing in the observation is to get the informed consent. It is necessary that the participants whom you are going to observe, from them you have to get a written informed consent, that are you ready to participate in this kind of observation. Without informing them, you cannot observe them, as it used to be the case of media. Some media persons used to visit the public officers. They used to record their behavior, and then they used to release it on social media. The court said that you cannot do this, it is unethical. If it is leading towards something which is violative of the principles of ethical conduct in civil services, if it is leading to any corruption, then it may be admissible as a corroborative evidence, but that alone is not the evidence we will admit in the court. Population defined, the method defined, protocols defined, consent done. Now collect the data. Collect the data, that is, do the observation. Then analyze it, of course. And how will you analyze? Statistically. Analyze it statistically. Once you have done the analysis, you will do the report writing. Write the report. Interpret. The data and write the report. More or less the same steps as we have followed in survey, but here what was important? Protocols need to be defined, consent needs to be taken. Apart from that, everything is same. Because it's a sensitive method of collecting data, you have to define the protocols you have to take the consent of the people, right? So we have done our survey and observation both. Then comes another method, which is called your case study. Case study formed the backbone of, bedrock of the studies of Sigmund Freud, because Sigmund Freud observed each and every patient in detail and then formulated the hypothesis. And later on, when the hypothesis is generalized, it becomes a theory. So what Sigmund Freud did was data. The data was in form of free association, and dream analysis. By interpreting the things spoken by the client, the patient, in an environment where the patient is trusting the psychoanalyst, psychoanalytic psychotherapist, in the background of the early childhood experiences of the patient, it is in form of an inductive study. What is inductive study? From the data, when it leads to theorization, it is inductive. Inducing. From data, the theory is induced. This is the data from which theory comes up. Induction is taking place. Case study. Sigmund Freud studied people like Anna, various other patients, understood their behavior, analyzed, then gave the theory, which is done exactly the same was done in grounded theory approach. It is not that Sigmund Freud used grounded theory approach, but the approach in grounded theory and the Sigmund Freud's way was similar. Most of you, while writing the answer, you are writing that Sigmund Freud did the grounded theory approach. No, that is not true. Sigmund Freud followed an approach where the case study of each and every patient was done. Then Sigmund Freud reached to certain conclusions, theorization. But it does not mean that Sigmund Freud used grounded theory approach. So, what is happening in case study? A person or a group of persons are studied in detail regarding a particular context. Suppose a person is suffering from, as it used to happen in case of that era where Sigmund Freud became a champion, somebody is suffering from hysteria. So fearful, the body movements we are not able to judge or understand why it is happening. Showing situations of nightmares. This person was studied deeply. And now To the method of talking cure. Most of her fixations, psychic fixations, were cured. She started behaving normally after the talking cure. When she was able to tell everything in detail to somebody she trusted, she felt light because of the release of what? Catharsis. What happened here is cathartic release. Different patients, same situation. Then Sigmund Freud said that probably talking cure is the best way. Talking cure is the best method through which they are able to release their catharsis, and the catharsis is because of the fixation in a particular stage, as we had seen: oral stage, anal stage, phallic stage, latency, and genital. Oral, anal, phallic, latency, genital. In these stages, there are different centers of pleasure in our body, and if the conflicts in these stages are not resolved properly, then there are fixations. And according to Sigmund Freud, these fixations can be released. The psychic energy which gets bottled up in form of pent up feelings can be released by using the method of talking cure, dream analysis, free association, in the context of early childhood experiences and the parental influences over the child. This is a detailed study, case study. Now, the characteristics of case study. As I tell you that you can use these case studies in ethics and essay. What happens? You can take an imaginary boy in Jharkhand or imaginary girl in Chhattisgarh, trace their life depending upon the topic of the essay. That will be case study. When you are given a case study in ethics section B, ethics paper, a particular case is dealt in detail. You are supposed to tell the stakeholders the ethical dilemma involved, what is the summary of the case study, and how you will approach when you have certain wayouts, different solutions possible, but why you will choose a particular solution over other solutions. This is the essence of case study. The same thing happened with Sigmund Freud. So characteristics of case study is either a single case or a multiple number of cases can be studied. Sigmund Freud at the same time studied so many cases, not a single case only. Multiple case studies were done and then the generalization was reached. This is the first characteristic of case study. Then as we have seen in case of survey and observation, what can be the types? Qualitative, or quantitative, can be collected. Once you have understood the fundamental of one type of method of research, you can replicate, apply to other types as well. This is called smartness. Qualitative and quantitative. Again, the study can be done about the severity of the problem, how long the person is suffering from this particular disease, or there may be questions like why they are suffering. The why will be answered through qualitative study, and what will be answered through quantitative study. Qualitative or quantitative. The case study can be exploratory or confirmatory. Sigmund Freud can be there trying to resolve the issues of NAO in an exploratory manner by going for approaching the case in an open mind, not having any hypothesis in the back of the mind. That will be exploratory, exploring all the issues around, then reaching to the conclusion. Or it may be confirmatory. Sigmund Freud may be having certain idea that yes, this fixation might have taken place at this particular stage, and he will confirm whether it happened because of the fixation at oral stage or anal stage, phallic stage or latency stage or genital stage. Sigmund Freud may go with the confirmation approach, that will be confirmatory. And of course, like we have said, this method again does not go alone. Case study method generally combined with other methods. These are the 4 characteristics. Then comes your limitations. Limitations are same. What were the limitations? Major limitations. Limitations of reliability, validity. The conclusions may not be reliable and valid. Then limitations of biases. Several types of biases, whether sampling bias or response bias or demand characteristics or social desirability. Response bias and demand characteristics, where the participants themselves don't respond properly or respond in a manner so that the research becomes valid to confirm the research hypothesis. These kind of biases can be there. Then again, ethical issues. Not everything can be studied through case study. There cannot be a case study of a particular belief used by Jains or Buddhists, where they follow a path of spirituality. We cannot go on and study because that's a spiritual conviction. We cannot grill them. We cannot study somebody's mating behavior, that is unethical. These are the limitations which are universal in nature. As far as questions from this part is concerned, only 10 markers, or if there are 15 markers, there may be comparing one method from the other. That may be asked. After doing survey, observation, case study, now we go to the most valid of all the methods, most scientific of all the methods, that is your experiments. Experimental method or experiments. What happens in experiments? About this method, we all are quite well versed. What is an experiment? When the researcher goes out generally when the researcher has a hypothesis in mind when the researcher has a hypothesis with him and it is tested. Through the method of manipulation of one variable which is called independent variable IV. Suppose a researcher goes with a hypothesis that program learning PL works greatly for disadvantaged learners. The null hypothesis here, as is the case with the researchers, is that the null hypothesis will say program learning has no effect on disadvantaged learners. Program learning does not affect them. The alternate hypothesis will be program learning helps disadvantaged learners. Another alternate hypothesis will be program learning worsens the situation of disadvantaged learner. The approach in psychology is different. Psychologists want to reject this null hypothesis. Psychologists work in such a fashion where they think that this hypothesis should be rejected. When this is rejected, then they will look for whether it is helping the disadvantaged learner or not helping. First and foremost, the primary approach is that it should be rejected, rejecting the null hypothesis that program learning is not helping the disadvantaged learner. It will be rejected. It means that program learning is helping the disadvantaged learners, helping or affecting positively or negatively. That will be another question that the researcher will be looking for. Now researcher will do what? Will do the manipulation in different levels of program learning. Its intensity will be increased, or it will be used in experimental group. Two groups will be formed. This is your control group, this is your experimental group. In the experimental group, program learning will be introduced, but in the control group, no manipulation of IV will be done. Yes, that is true. Of course, in the case study there is no control, there is no manipulation. In all the methods apart from experiments, if you look at survey, questionnaire, interview, case study, there is no manipulation of IV, there is no control of external variable. So it becomes unscientific, not so objective. Of course, it's true. Experiments are the best methods when done in a controlled conditions. But due to the limitations of ethical issues, due to the limitations of the events which have already taken place, the psychologist, the researcher is not always endowed with the possibility of manipulating IV and controlling EV. So most of the cases, quasi-experimental research or non-experimental research is done. So in experimental group, program learning is brought. Control group, nothing new is brought. Disadvantaged learners are learning through their common curriculum. When then it is seen that the performance of the learners in the experimental group, performance in the experimental group and performance in the control group, whether they are equal or not. If it is found that performance of the experimental group is better than the performance of the control group, then we see that yes, the program learning did affect the disadvantaged learner in a positive manner, positive. So HA, the alternate hypothesis, will be correct. This is the method used in experiments. What is the idea behind experiments? What are the characteristics? First and foremost, characteristics of experiments. We are trying to establish a causal relationship between what? IV and DV. IV-DV causal relationship is established. How? What is the IV here? Program learning. DV here, the effect on the education of disadvantaged learners. There is a causal relationship that is not a correlation. It's not that as the program learning, degree of program learning increases, along with that the education standard of disadvantaged learner also improves. No, there is a causal relationship, one-to-one objective causal relationship, and that is the primary aim of experiments. Secondly, second characteristics, a systematic methods of data collection. Is used, and this data collection itself takes place through experiments. Not only this, systematic method largely statistical of data analysis is also used. Data collection, data analysis, all is systematic. Here through the methods of statistics like ANOVA, like t-test. These methods are used to analyze the data. The experiments follow the principle of replication. The same experimental setup can be paralleled, can be repeated many number of times. The results will be same. Principle of replication, as we have seen, which is important for experiments. Replication can be easily done in case of experiments. Replication of experiments. Then what are the types of experiments? The experiments can be one is your pure experiments which are done. Then there is QER, quasi-experimental research, which we have seen. Then non-experimental research. In the quasi-experimental research, what happens? The randomization does not take place, and because of that, since the randomization is not done, the control over external variable is very less. Since there is no control over EV, it is called quasi-experimental research. In non-experimental research, NER, non-experimental. There what happens? Neither the manipulation of IV manipulation not done, nor the control of EV. IV manipulation not done, EV control not done. Non-experimental research. Most of the researches are non-experimental research. And these are nothing but the correlational research, where we reach to the correlation. What are the limitations? Same as we have seen in the last case study. Standard procedure, the methods for a successful experiment, same as we have seen in the case of case study. This I leave to you to jot down from your class what you have understood in case of the case study. What are the limitations, the ethical limitations, limitations of biases, what are the standard procedure? Standard procedure is same. Define the problem, define the population, define your method of data collection clearly, collect the data, analyze it statistically, finally write the report, finished. We will see in the next class, that is tomorrow, the experimental design, non-experimental design, quasi-experimental design, and then we will see focus group discussion, grounded theory and brainstorming. We will be able to finish all this in the next class. Then we will do the individual differences, that is the part of paper 2, but we will do here only. We will understand the standardized tests, how they are used. We will keep the methods very simple as we are following right now. Unnecessarily bringing complexity into the study is not at all warranted, not at all required. After that, we will study the statistical portion, that too very easily, smoothly. We will enjoy studying that. Then we will shift to the cognitive psychology, connect it with the social psychology, not studying them separately, but connecting each and every chapter, and connecting the paper 1 chapters with the paper 2. Wherever the application is required, it will be done in the same go. Based on your introduction chapter and the research method along with the individual differences, after doing all 3 chapters, then we will have a test. I thought of giving you a test based on introduction only, but now these 3 chapters will have a test, combined test, when we cover all these, the stats also, so that you have a holistic understanding of psychology, not just having compartmentalized study. And believe me, we are going to do really well. We need not even worry about what is being taught where. We are way ahead of many people. Many people. So with this, I will end the class here itself. I will meet you tomorrow, 6:30 probably. If there is some preoccupation, then 7 o'clock. We will finish this chapter. Then in the next class, we will bring our individual differences, then statistics, finally going into the cognitive and social aspects, and the paper 2. All will be combined. It will be done in a holistic, integrated manner. From the complexity to simplicity, this is our approach. I will simplify each and everything for you, give you notes which you can memorize, understand, and go and write in the exam and get marks. As simple as that. Good night. Thank you for joining. We'll meet tomorrow.